Hello everyone, welcome to Live the Dream, Dayananda Sagar University's podcast series. Today we have as our guest Professor Chaminda Hettiarachchi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. And we look forward to some insightful conversation. Just to set the ball rolling, you have come to India many times. You have visited many parts of the world. You have studied in Pakistan and you're from a very, very close neighbor, Sri Lanka. Why don't you say something about yourself which is going to be exciting for our students and our listeners?
This opportunity. In fact, as you mentioned, my name is Chaminda Hettiarachchi. I know for many Indians, the Sri Lankan names are very difficult to pronounce, but you did a good job. Yeah, so I'm a university lecturer in Sri Lanka. In addition to, I teach management, mainly project management and strategic management. Recently, I started also digital business as a part of my subject portfolio. But in addition to that, I also run a social enterprise called Lanka Foundation. What we try to do is introduce so-called industry 4 technologies, particularly 3D printing, robotics, AI, IoT, things like that for social development, not to earn profit, but empowering young youth as well as rural development. So those are the work I do at home. But in addition to that, to improve my experience and exposure, I also try to travel to different countries and learn from different communities and adapt to Sri Lanka, as well as I try to share my knowledge and experience with other communities. So that's the purpose of coming here. To DSU, this is my second visit. I was there last year as a visiting professor. But as you correctly mentioned, I've been visiting India from 2000 as a traveler, as a later as a professor academic. So I have visited many places in India. To tell you, actually, once I traveled from Lahore to cross the Wagah border to Golden Temple. What is the city? Amritsar.
Amritsar.
By foot, and then took a trip. Yeah.
By foot.
I was allowed that time as a non-Indian, non-Pakistani. I actually visited that several times, and then took a train to Delhi, and from there I took a train to actually Tamil Nadu Express to Chennai, and took a flight from there to Colombo. It's not just to save you money, of course. As a student, I did that, but to explore. I think I heard about Gandhiji did something similar, so I did the same thing. So I have seen India. I have not been much to west, no, east, right? Eastern Calcutta that way, but from Uttar Pradesh to Dharmashala to south of Tamil Nadu, I've been visiting for last 25 years many times. So India is more like my extended family and home. So I'm feeling very kind of local here, and that's the purpose of this. And I want to share my knowledge and also learn from you guys in India to enrich my identity as a South Asian beyond island Sri Lanka.
Nice to hear that. This is your second visit to Dayananda Sagar University. What has changed between last year and this year?
First of all, the first impression is this media studio and the new setup of the faculty. I am very impressed. Actually, there's ongoing media studies and media batch. I think that's really important in a world where media is more considered as a challenge than opportunity. I think you are doing a great job of trying to make it more structured and more academic. Yeah. So in addition to that, when I come to India, I see many applications, new applications like this government pay, the
UPI.
something like that, UPI, and
Digital payments.
metro. Yeah. So one thing I'm disappointed because last year I expected the metro from this area to the city work, but I think it's delayed again. But so there are a lot of things are happening in India, because in Sri Lanka we are more kind of stagnated country because we are more like an island, so we are more relaxed people. Things don't happen faster, but when I come to India, I see a lot of new things. So in the same way, so I would say that India is a confident nation at the moment. Also in the morning, this first astronaut is going to
Shubhan
space
Shukla.
after ISS. Yeah, exactly. After 4 years or something. So that gave an inspiration for me to go and kind of educate my people. Of this emerging confident nation of India, I think main indicator is the young people, young generation. So every year when I come at DSU or also outside, you see the young people are more kind of outward now. For example, when I visited maybe 20 years ago, Indian youth that time, of course, my generation were not really outward, I would say, compared to now, and they are now more interested in what's happening in the world, what is the role of India or their role of in the world, as well as they want to go for maybe job opportunities in the US, in Europe. So I think they are becoming more confident and more outward and more kind of progressive. So
Do you think technology has a role to play in this?
definitely, I think when we look at continents, the South Asia, particular subcontinent, but Asia are actually very pro technology. Now, I also kind of live and work in Europe. Europe is very slow to adopt technology, but whereas now I was end of last year, I was in Philippines. So that's another technologically driven country. So India uses in technology, I think it's a main driver, especially digital technology. I'm talking about uh, consumable digital technology, not something like space travel, like mobile phones, internet, and other such tools. They are really changing the way people interact, way people live, way they do business. So I think that's the main driver, in addition to the government policies, other factors. But technology is a main driver, I would say, not only India but entire South Asia.
In terms of attitudes and mindsets of students, I'm sure you have seen students in different parts of the world. How would you compare the Indian students, specifically Dayananda and Saga students, of course? But otherwise, generally, how would you compare the student mindsets and attitudes from various countries?
Okay, so I think it's difficult to kind of generalize, but for simplicity, I will say I will kind of categorize as South Asian students. That means India, Pakistan, Bangladesh together, compared with, say, for example, European or East Asian students. I would say there are some negatives. For example, we are still cultured people, so we are looking at traditions and cultures.
But is it a good thing or a bad thing?
In my perspective, it can be negative for this purpose, and also respect for the hierarchy and those kind of power, respecting power is those are some kind of negative for my perspective. But in that case, the positives are they are embracing new things, for example, technology, and also they are very competitive. Only thing is also I would use the word malleability, like engineering term. So you can easily kind of train them, uh, uh, kind of reorient them for a good purpose. So that's why actually
they're more flexible and
exactly
they're more
exactly. So
amenable to change.
they try to like say try new things.
Okay.
So that's a positive thing. I think that's why the Indians are, for example, preferred in many American multinational companies to run management positions, because if you compare our guys with say Europeans or East Asians, there are other limitations they have, but I think we are flexible, uh, uh, adapting, and also risk taking with all other so-called negative things I mentioned.
So you mentioned risk taking. So is that the reason why India probably is generating more entrepreneurs and startups than some other countries in the
Exactly,
world?
exactly. Now I give you an example, like a local example, not very relevant to entrepreneurship. Now, a lot of Sri Lankans, it's difficult to go from island to another country. A lot of them go to Australia by boats, illegal boats. And
From
then,
Sri Lanka?
yeah, exactly. And imagine now they go to, of course, get a job and have a better life, but the risk they take is very high. Now, if you divert that, like as you mentioned, if you have a lot of startups, incubation centers, entrepreneur kind of a environment, they will use that knowledge and that expertise and that skill, risk taking attitude to do something better. So I think it's our responsibility as kind of dominant generation now who are running the society. We have to take this characteristic entrepreneurship, innovation, even mentally to exploring new things to kind of focus that for the nation building or prosperity of the people.
You have had a multidisciplinary exposure to several disciplines. Engineering, you're an engineer. management, then international relations, conflict management, and then I saw something very interesting which said non-violent resistance. So you have kind of been there, done that, seen many things. Uh, how did this journey happen? Was it planned? Was it by accident? Was it by design? Or you just found your true calling and went wherever your heart took you? So, how did this journey happen?
Okay, so I think that's a very valid question. I get that question frequently, but difficult answer actually, because there are a lot of reasons. But I would briefly say that, of course, like many other South Asian young guys during that time, I want to be an engineer and happy and get the social acceptance, things like that. But in the journey, mostly by accidents, I was exposed to different other subjects, like started as industrial or manufacturing engineer, but my MBA was in general management. So when I went out of Sri Lanka, so I got a lot of questions. For example, like when I was in Pakistan, I did my MBA at Lahore University of
Lahore.
Management Sciences. So I saw a lot of issues. For example, what I have not seen in Sri Lanka, like extreme rich people and then very poor people next door. Then I started reading about a lot of such issues. And Pakistan was a newly found country, and one of my professors told me Pakistan started with even the central bank didn't have a printing machine for printing notes. So then those questions, I started looking at World Bank report, human development reports, and poverty, regional issues, India, Pakistan, hostility, and how it's affecting. So then I actually, I went to do MBA on Asian Development Bank scholarship to come back and work in Sri Lanka as a CEO of a big company. But then there I changed my life, perspective and world view. So then I wanted to explore more about social issues like poverty, regional issues, war, things like that. And then afterward, I didn't want to go back to the industry. I started teaching because I thought the best way in our part of the world is of giving away and doing some kind of demonstration effect by mainly by teaching. As a professor, you should also know that well. So then I start teaching, particularly for MBA programs in Colombo, and also I get invitation to go back to Germany and Pakistan, of course India. But what I realized was just hardcore management is also not really serving the purpose of kind of saving the humanity. So I look at other topics like strategic management, international relations, sociology. So by doing different executive programs and top-up courses, I was able to get some knowledge about them. Now, one thing I want to highlight here, after tsunami happened in Sri Lanka, where 35 people died in the country, but also more than 100 in the region. I was interested in disaster. Till that time, I was not very much interested. So I learned about disaster management. I enrolled in different projects of recovery and reconstruction work. And as a part of that, I had the opportunity to go to Harvard Kennedy School to do a disaster management regional kind of leadership program. So that was like one way I got exposed to that disaster management topic. But later also, because we are Sri Lanka as a war-affected country. So it's how to solve the problem of, let's say, war, ethnic conflict, how to build peace in a country which is affected by war. Then I was interested. They all are management problems. So then I started learning about power decentralization, federalism, Indian model, Swiss model, and then what is kind of unique from my contribution to those solutions are like those guys who are involved in them dominantly are lawyers or political scientists or people coming from, let's say, social science background. So as a former engineer with a person with engineering and mathematical skill, I had to kind of contribute with same kind of a logic but different issues. For example, nowadays I am working on system thinking. And system thinking, as an engineer, I started with thermodynamics, how, let's say, engine work and how system thinking is applied to an engine or machine. Now I'm using or adapting the same knowledge to understand, let's say, a community or a country or two groups fighting each other, or even sometimes the world. So that is at the moment, even though I'm still interested in things like system thinking, sustainable development goals, and other management topics, I always try to push the boundary to look at political issues or global issues. So therefore, I think it's kind of a two-way. I try to learn by adapting. Sometimes I'm kind of outdated or not relevant, but most of the time I am able to kind of contribute to a niche, saying that look at this problem without you kind of dominating, allowing your emotion to dominate. Look at this as a system, as a objective analysis, for example, cause and effect, for example, something like that. So I think I have been able to create dialogues among different communities, and also use my knowledge to help others to look from different perspectives.
So, do you work with think tanks? Do you work with policymakers? Have you dabbled in politics?
Not really, not in party politics, but I actually work as a
Okay.
associate director, like a second position in a regional think tank called Regional Center for Strategic Studies. This is South Asian think tank based in Colombo, but they are kind of their stakeholders are South Asian. So we had the executive director from one time from India, one time from Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. I was the second in command as associate director, like a chief operating officer. So there I did a lot of research on regional conflicts and issues, water, energy, security. That's how I actually adapted my knowledge into uh, regional issues. Now, for example, when I come to India, I'm thinking about this regional element of all the issues. But sometimes they don't really care, because for example, you look at Indian news channels, they always focus about Indian issues. But for me, there's always a spillover effect to southern neighborhood. But I have to tell them, excuse me, we are also here, so consider our stake also. But I think it's a good way. For example, now it's not me. For example, when our president was Chandrika Kumar Tunga, I remember one time there was a fight between India and Pakistan, maybe kind of war situation. I'm not very sure it was Vajpayee and
Was it the Kargil War in 2000?
afterward. So then Chandrika Bandaranaike during a SAC summit, she was sitting at the center, both sides, Indian Prime Minister and Pakistan President. So she claimed that she made the peace between them. Yeah, so I don't know if it's true or not, but I thought it's a good idea, because we are not really big, we are a small country. But we can take decision faster than, for example, India, because India has a lot of consultation to make. And also, we are seen as like not hostile people, even though we have internal fight.
Neutral and friendly.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore, we can use that approach to deal with bigger and more powerful countries. So I also believe on that and work on that principle. So I go to Pakistan, I come to India, and I try to kind of, even they attack each other, I try to work as external as well as internal member in their issues.
I think there's a lot of shared cultural values,
Exactly.
economic and social factors that impact, I think, both the countries.
So, for example, very correct. When I cross the border at Wagah, when I go to Pakistan side, they think I'm an Indian, because I look more like an Indian for them. When I come to India, they know, of course, where I'm from, but I represent Pakistan because I know about Pakistan and everything. So it's you are right. For example, we actually have a lot of shared values, shared practices, shared interests, but based on the mood of the country. For example, nowadays it's more like tensions and hostility is the dominant kind
Politics.
of thing. Yeah, politics. Yeah, but now I am working for people, people like me, not for the political party or any government. So therefore, I think we should be consistent in working for the people, and particularly how to enhance the similarities than kind of exploiting differences.
Okay. What role do you think consultants, especially in the areas of development and management, uh, what role do they play in policy making? Because on one hand, we do see a lot of people who are engaging with the government. On the other hand, we also see a lot of gaps in the satisfaction levels of, say, the citizens of a country, whether in terms of government services or facilities or infrastructure or whatever. So obviously, um, the inputs that are being given at the policy level is not getting translated into actions at the ground level, right? So, is there a role? Is there a more proactive role that consultants and management experts can play?
Yeah, so in this context, I am more like activist than academic, because now, for example, you mentioned about my practice or training on nonviolent resistance. Now, you may be aware that 2 years ago, we were able to throw a government, democratically elected but not very popular government, by the nonviolent activism or movement of people. So I was also part of that. So that's one extreme example of how the people as organized groups using, for example, use technology to do that, to unify people and work together. That's one example. I think there was one interesting movie I watched many years ago, Indian movie with Madhavan. It's a Hindi movie, Sangi Basant maybe. So the guys.
Rang De Basanti.
Yeah. So they through the government.
Amir Khan and Madhavan.
Exactly. So that it was in my mind those days, but I was laughing. How can you do this kind of thing for a bigger country? But we actually did the same thing in 2002 with Vota Go Home movement. So that's one example. But of course, at the moment we have more people-friendly government in Sri Lanka. So what we try to do is, these guys were also in the movement. So we now, in a positive way, engage with them and try to constructively give them policy guidelines and engage with them in a positive way. Of course, as you say, we cannot be happy all the time, because in South Asia in general, they are not like think tank driven policy making. They are more into their personal agendas, political maybe manifestation. So, but I think think tanks, academics, and the advisors or management experts should play active role, and then government should engage. We have been doing some work, particularly with the organization like Regional Center for Strategic Studies. We build South Asian integration policies, regional energy sharing. For example, now when Mr. Modi came to Sri Lanka, there are a lot of effort on, for example, grid, extension of grid, building road or railway lines. So those are actually recommendations we gave to all countries, including SAC, Secretary General in Nepal, as actually a group of South Asian experts. We wrote few publications and then shared with them. So it takes time, so you have to be patient, and also you cannot be like 100% like all are accepted. So I think you need tolerance and patience in making policy changes, but I think we have to keep the positivism in our work.
So management consultants do have a role to play.
Definitely,
A big role to play.
Yeah.
An interesting factor that you mentioned was use of ICT. That is something which I think a lot of governments, especially in the developing countries, have been using, especially in South Asian countries, have been using for poverty alleviation, for empowerment, uh, to bring services to the common man, etc. And the UPI example in India that you mentioned, uh, is testimony to the fact that it can have an impact to even the most, even in the lowest of the social categories that you find. Uh, while we say this, we are also compelled to look at the advent and some say the onslaught of artificial intelligence. Uh, where do you see the future going, and what impact is this going to have, one specifically on management education, and two generally on society?
Okay, so this is also another kind of complicated question. Now, even though I have been a pro technological, let's say,
An evangelist.
Exactly, in the early stage of ICT and recently other digital technologies. I mean, you are very right, because the technologies normally disrupt how things are kind of set up, whether it is education, whether it is communication or interaction among people. So one thing you have to accept is there will be a lot of new losers and new have-nots, digital haves and digital have-nots. People who know the technology or subject will be better off than other people.
The digital divide, as
Exactly,
they call it.
exactly. So therefore, I think there's one way to kind of address this is you embrace it and become masters of that. Now, if you look at the world history, there have been several industrial revolutions, industry 1, industry 2, even industry 3. Examples like Infosys was like a global hit, but mostly South Asia actually have been just beneficiaries or maybe consumers of industrial revolutions than real contributors. But now we have a unique opportunity, Industry 4.0, fourth industrial revolution, where South Asian individuals, companies, and even countries can shape the dynamics of the revolution. Particularly, I'm talking about technologies like AI, IoT, robotics, 3D printing. We are running our organization based on those technologies. So there will be now again, as I mentioned to you, whether you want to be active player on that or just oppose it or become recipients of that. So all these approaches will have their justification, but based on my experience and my training, I would say embrace it, try to influence and shape the future of Industry 4. Now, when it comes to management education, particularly with AI, I think the same dynamic, same question is an unsolved issue in many business schools in the universities. Still, AI is seen as a disruptor, or many students use it to, let's say, manipulate or cheat or bypass lecturers' requirements. So, what should be the kind of approach we as academics should kind of take? Of course, easy way is to ban it or not allowing it, but we have seen that actually that kind of blanket approach doesn't work because they are smart enough to bypass it. So other kind of approaches like what Harvard University is doing, so they try to educate people, academics, and try to use internalize AI as a part of teaching and as part of curriculum and exam review and everything. So
You cannot avoid it, but at least use it smartly.
exactly. So then you should first be informed and then try to use it for your work, for academic research and teaching, how you can include AI. Now, for example, I am teaching using simulation. Then now the all simulation now will have AI assistant or AI part of simulation. So I would say first, of course, you understand the threat or risk, but learn about it and kind of use it for positive purposes and avoid all the disruptions or negativities.
Uh, it's very interesting because whether we understand it or not, I think everybody is now rushing to AI, right? And they somehow want to learn it, somehow want to start using it. I think we'll have to wait and see how it's going to impact society at large. Um, Another very interesting thing that comes to my mind is social media. Right? While we talk of AI, which is also a form of technology which people fear could disrupt lives, disrupt many things in society, social media has already done it. In fact, countries like Australia are actually legislating to ban social media use up to the age of 16, and it's anyone's guess if they'll go beyond that, because a lot of researchers have discovered the negative impacts of social media, especially the long term impacts of social media on a human's brain as well as psychology and well-being, mental and physical well-being. And in this context, you also mentioned, when we were having a conversation before the show, that in 2007, way back, you had actually launched a YouTube channel, right? And today you see the same thing happening. Everybody is rushing to YouTube, either to consume content or to create content. Where is this all going to go? Is this something good? Is this something that can be used for, say, doing better things, managing things better specifically? Or is it one more of those fancies that has caught the attention of the human race, which is leading them nowhere? What is your take?
So, I think again it is a complicated question. I don't have a direct answer, but what I think is actually based on this my intervention and my interaction in social media era, it is already kind of more than 10 years or 15 years, 20 years now. Yeah, so it all depends on how you take it. For example, you can dominantly think it's bad, and therefore you can make all the rules of kind of avoiding it or minimizing the damage and protecting the people. But again, that depends on, for example, in Australia, maybe they can negotiate it. I think they also charge some taxes for.
They're charging taxes. But California was actively considering
Okay,
banning
okay.
social media.
And also in Europe, there are regulations.
There are a lot of regulations.
Some rules and everything.
Right.
So, but now again, when it comes to India, they can also afford it. For example, TikTok, they have been one of most popular applications. But I think as an individual, I think again the same answer. You should see the risk, evaluate it, and try to use it for positive purposes. Again, it's not a guaranteed solution, but that's how I have been kind of trying and advising other people to do. Of course, I myself also had some kind of negative experiences of being a pro social media person. But I think what I see around, particularly in the next generation, technology is a one major way of shaping their own lives. So if you don't consider it seriously, we have to anyway take it seriously. It has an impact, both negative and positive. So our challenge and our approach, I would say, is to minimize the risk and try to get the best out of that. Of course, in that process, you can even be a casualty. So, but then there's no chance, because it's, I would say theoretically, technology itself is not bad or good, depending upon how you use it. It's a value neutral. Right. So there are cases of people, companies, like governments, like if you look at the example of Estonia, it's like most digitally connected country in the world, small country. So we try to look at such experiences, but of course then you have some like Google Analytica, Google Analytica, right? So a case of they are manipulating elections and people's opinion. So this is like unavoidable, enemy in your, neighborhood. So how to deal with that? This has been always the maybe case from Surasura, time. So I think we have to deal it as part of human progress.
Okay, coming back to management. There are so many management schools, there are so many theories and concepts that are being taught, and constantly it's evolving. There's a lot of research being done. But the more you read about some of these companies, either a startup collapsing or a startup unable to raise funds, or a well-established company whose promoters are being booked for fraud, you see misgovernance and mismanagement. So, is there something wrong in what is being taught in B schools, in management schools? Should there be a different kind of orientation? Should there be a different kind of perspective to management?
I think when I'm answering that question, I have to be careful about my future. Client. No, true. Actually, that's a very important question and valid question. And also, it's also kind of as a management academic for more than 20 years. I myself am disappointed about what's happening in the world, particularly the companies you trust, suddenly they are kind of found to be fraudulent. Yeah.
And you have this in practically every country.
Exactly.
It's not just India.
Exactly. So I would say that's why I think that's where also I think my understanding about non-management subject matters, because ethics or moral of businesses are very important aspects which are not actually taught in business school to that level. They touch it, but it's not emphasized enough to save the world, I would say. So I would say we have to kind of vamp our curriculum and way how we talk about business. Particularly, for example, I was talking about the technology previously. Now, even technology should be people-owned. It should be for the benefit of well-being of the people. It should not necessarily mainly for profit earning for big company. So if you can have that reorientation, how people own back, because when we talk about steam engine and early cottage industries, the technology actually what did was they did a lot of democratization of economic power and development. What happened in the recent times was these all technologies and all wealth were kind of centralized or concentrated by some big players. So we want to revise that by having more empathy, humanity built into businesses. So this should not happen as like a CSR project, that is their own voluntary. But we should define business, like business models, or what do you mean by business, by considering more into, for example, stakeholder approach, more well-being of people than just one owner's profit maximization. So that's happening in the world. I think that naturally allow and enhance fraudulent practices and cheating and manipulations. So we should have more governance where companies and corporate and also governments should be responsible for people and use of wealth for well-being of particularly people who are below or the bottom of the pyramid, than just celebrate largest company in the world or most high price share company than impact of the society.
So it's not about valuation or share price, but more about the value that they bring to
exactly.
the
I think
bottom of the pyramid.
now, for example, India actually provide historically also some such examples, like I think Amul, for example.
Amul, yeah. It's a cooperative movement.
Exactly. So now I actually kind of recommend and push the idea of more cooperatives, more foundations, more social entrepreneurs than traditional, profit maximizing based companies. So world should be like more a place of more social business than conventional exploiting corporates.
So in these 2 years, what has been your experience in Dayananda Sagar University, and what is going to be your message to the students?
Yeah, so Dayananda Sagar University has been a very good welcoming host for me, including senior members like deans and international office and everybody. But my main motivation is actually students. So when I meet these young people, very dynamic, very friendly, I feel like coming back again and again. So I hope to keep that collaboration in addition to my other partnerships in other universities in the region. My maybe simple message will be, I ask students, even in my class, I always highlight that develop empathy based on what I discussed earlier. It's not just, of course, you can talk about your own job opportunity and how much money you're going to earn. So I would say don't get limited by that, even though sometimes at a young age you consider for home based on how much wealth you earn or what is your salary or what resources you will have. But I think I would say progress with empathy. So there are, because the MBA guys or young people with degrees and postgraduate degrees are privileged people, at least more than 80% people around you. So use this privilege to help people who are less privileged than you and people who didn't have opportunity, because that is not necessarily because they are weak and bad or non-intelligent, but maybe due to their opportunity or some other environmental factor. So use your brain, knowledge, achievements to share wealth, opportunities, knowledge with people around us. So look at them with empathy while encourage or improve your critical thinking and other management skills. So I would say to the Dayananda Sagar community, especially young students, empathetic progress or progress with empathy.
Professor Chaminda Hettiarachchi. I hope I got your name right this time. Thank you very much for joining me on this show.
Thank you very much.
And thank you everyone for tuning into this show.